Louise, I think you started the recording for me then, didn't you? Somebody did. Okay.
Yeah, I started it. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for doing that. Okay.
So,
hi, Ben. Sorry, I'm just letting, go for it, Rosemary.
Lovely. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Lovely. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Sue, for inviting me to talk about T-levels. I wasn't quite sure what the starting point would be, so I thought I'll briefly talk about the ETF and what we do, and then talk about the rollout of T-levels and the support available. So I assume copies of the slides can be distributed as well.
Yeah, and we've got a recording of this session, which we'll post up on Career Palette as well.
Okay, right, so let's move on then. Right, so who we are? Well, we are the Education and Training Foundation, and we are a charity, and our purpose is to improve education within the post-compulsory sector, and we do that by supporting teachers. As regards T-levels, we've been commissioned by the DFE to support providers across England to feel ready and confident to successfully deliver. So what do I do in all of this? Well, I'm based in the southwest, but I do have counterparts across England, so please, I'll show you how to get in touch with them if you want some more information. And what I do is I raise awareness of T-levels at events like today. I support with the planning and delivery of T-levels, and I can signpost providers to the latest T-level opportunities and advice. Not only from ETF, I also work with AOC, IFATE and ALP. But most importantly is that last bullet, I help find solutions. So in meetings and discussions with providers and one-to-ones, we talk about what their needs are, and we match their needs to the TLPD offer available. So again, that's the map. This is what I do. I look after 18 providers in the southwest, and we'll be getting more on board as the Wave 4 providers join us. Just moving on. So what is a T-level? Well, led by Lord Sainsbury, the development of the T-level is part of a streamlining of existing qualifications. It is a 2-year technical education course aimed at 16 to 19-year-olds, and they've been developed in collaboration with employers, includes a mixture of classroom learning, 80%, and industry experience, 20%, which is a minimum of 315 hours. If you look at the T-level, it's actually almost like the flip of an apprenticeship, which is 80% on the job and that's 20% classroom based. So you can look at it as a flip side. T-levels comprise a mixture of practical tasks, projects and exams. These exams, we haven't sat any exams yet. The exams for this year have been postponed, and therefore we're looking at teacher assessed grades for those. These exams are sit-down exams, not dissimilar to GCSE and A-level exams. They are synoptic exams. The T-levels are based on the same employer-led standards as apprenticeships, and progression options include skilled employment, further study or a higher apprenticeship. And as Sue already said, they will attract UCAS points, and I've got a slide later on that shows them, so hopefully that matches up with the information that's on your website. They're considered to be more rigorous and substantial than most of the existing technical qualifications, with a longer teaching time. One T-level is comparable in size to 3 A-levels, so it's a really chunky qualification. Within the T-level, there will be broad course content, and students will be able to take an occupational specialism as well. The approach is a phased approach, a phased rollout, with all T-levels being available from 2023. So what does it look like? This is the streamlining that we've been talking about. You'll see that post-GCSE, learners will have a choice of A-levels, T-levels and apprenticeships. The DFE is now slightly relaxed. There is another box in here called vocational options. Okay, within those vocational options come all the BTECs and NBQs, etc., that students are already doing and completing. The phasing out of the BTECs, etc., is according to demand. So if demand continues, then that particular qualification will still be available. So moving on, looking at the components of the T-level itself, you will see there is the core we mentioned, we have the occupational specialism itself, we have the industry placement, and we have the Maths and English requirements. You'll notice that the Maths and English requirement is actually an exit requirement, so it's expected that all students achieve a level 2 in Maths and English or a grade 4 by the time they finish the T level. However, if you look at what current providers are doing, you will see that most providers have the Maths and English as an entry requirement and not an exit requirement. So that's quite important when thinking about it. The DFE is asking for a grade 4. However, you'll see those Maths and English requirements sometimes are set at 5s and in some cases 6s, depending on the T level. And then we have other requirements such as occupation-specific requirements, and they'll be included where possible. So you can see it's quite a chunky, very demanding course, 2-year course, as I said, equivalent to 3 A-levels. What current providers are thinking and saying is that the learner needs a certain amount of maturity and emotional maturity to deal with the content, to deal with the sort of self-study aspect of it. So it is quite a big ask. The next slide shows the actual rollout with the 3 in red, the 3 T-levels in red, rolling out from 2020 September, then joined by another 7 in the purple for 2021, and so into 23 when all T-levels will be available. So what these at the top are what we call routes in the grey boxes, and these are the pathways. These are the T-levels themselves. Within the T-levels there is the core and a specialism as well. And there's a choice of specialism that each provider can choose from. As I mentioned briefly before that employers were involved. These are some of the employers that have been contributing to the online content within the T-level panels. So you may have already heard of the transition programme as well. So the transition programme is aimed at those students who are not ready to start at T-level but have the potential to progress. At the moment, this is a sort of an open programme, as in how you place it, what you put into that programme, how you structure it, and there is guidance via the programme framework, which was published in October 2019. So again, aimed at those students who are quite not ready to progress from a GCSE onto a T-level, or those internal progression students who just need some extra skills before going on to that T-level. UCAS points, we've already mentioned at the beginning, there are UCAS points attached, and these are aligned to other level 3 qualifications. So how can ETF help? Well, we have a programme of six opportunities in order to support providers. These are all fully funded opportunities. So the first one is what it says on this tin. It's courses for understanding T levels. Again, aimed at a variety of roles, a variety of provider types, from schools to FE, etc. We do them for employers, we do them for governors. So we have a variety of courses here, all about understanding T levels. We also provide role and route specific training. Role being, what the role you have within your provider, whether you're a team leader, a curriculum lead, or whether you're a manager, whether you're a practitioner, or whether you're a learning support assistant. So various role and route specific, meaning route to the various T levels that are on offer. How do we decide what specific training you would need? Well, we have an organisational training needs analysis, which we will go through with the provider, and then we'll present a development plan from that. And we have an online individual training needs analysis, where individuals can actually go onto the website, answer various questions about themselves, and therefore be given a bespoke to recommended range of courses that meets their needs. We do professional development courses for leaders, and these range from managers courses to governors courses, and they deal with those strategic decisions as regards curriculum planning, as regards sequencing, as regards change management. For each T level, we hold networks. These networks are available within, the T levels plus industry placements and marketing, and we do specific networks for schools as well. An offshoot of the networks is actually an online community as well. So we have all these opportunities for individuals to come together to discuss issues. From the networks and from our conversations, we can encourage our providers to get involved in TRIPs, which are T-level resource improvement projects. These are funded projects up to £45,000 for partnership projects in order to address some of the issues that are perhaps the providers are perhaps encountering when delivering T levels. And finally, perhaps the most exciting part of our offer is industry insights. This is where we give staff the opportunity to go back out into industry and upskill. They may find that when they look at the specification for the T level that they do not have the knowledge of a piece of equipment or a new piece of software or what processes would be involved, and therefore we give them the opportunity to go out into industry and experience that and so update. So finally, there are 5 things you can do now if you want to find out more about T levels. You can sign up to the DFE updates and access the support page. The support page available also gives you all the specifications and outline content for all the T levels. So if you want to know what's involved in a T level, by all means click on there and you have it all at your fingertips. At ETF we have our own TLPD bulletin, and again you can look into that and find out exactly what's available and what opportunities there are. Our offer is continually developing according to demand. So clearly when we first planned the offer, we're looking at face-to-face, then we've moved into virtual. We have online flexible, and we have lots of different variations of our offer which we can adapt to the provider's needs. Again, the specification is where you will find the exact content of what needs to be delivered, and there are a number of associated documents to do with that, including industry placements and documents for assessments and exams, etc. You can access them from the support page, but you can also access them from the awarding organisations. A useful film that's come out is the What Are T Levels film from Amazing Apprenticeships, and that gives you an introduction to T levels, what they are, and it has sort of talking heads from students. That's a really useful resource as well, in order to sort of circulate to others who perhaps are unfamiliar with T levels. And again, really useful from IFATE are the occupational maps, number 5, and that again shows you where T levels can lead. So it links the employment opportunities with the T level and other progression opportunities. That was a whistle-stop tour fly-through. Sue, do you want me to take any questions just now, or has anything appeared in the chat, or does anyone have any questions?
There's just one question.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Let me stop sharing, and then I can sort of see better. Bear with me.
Just one question in the chat, which is, how long is T-level transition?
How long is a piece of string? Ideally a year. Okay, ideally a year. But however, that can be shortened depending on the student and depending how they're rolling out the T levels themselves.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, what we normally do is do the presentations, and then we have a chat and share, but we have got one hand up.
Lovely.
Susie, you've got your hand up. So if you want to put your mic on and ask a question, let's go for it.
Can you hear me, Sue?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So yeah, it's not as much a question as a comment.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with what T levels are, but I have seen some, for example, in September last year, so not old, information where particularly Russell Group universities have stated they will not be accepting T levels on a par with A levels. So of course I understand UCAS tariff points it's equivalent, but that isn't quite the same as, if it's a very academic degree. And I'm just concerned that the government website, the Amazing Apprenticeships videos are fantastic, but they do not clarify for students that they won't necessarily be the equivalent for some degrees on 3 levels, and I find that quite worrying as a careers advisor because they're so new.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you there. I think, we need to watch the DFE website and see what happens. We need to obviously listen to what the universities are saying. I know that the universities were finding it quite difficult to actually place the T level as regards equivalencies. There's also various research done into the English and maths content within T levels in order to get a better understanding of what a T level is. I would definitely say watch that space. The intention is that the UCAS points will allow progression into HE, but again, it's a space that needs to be watched. The first round of T levels will finish in 2022, summer 2022. So that's when we'll see, what happens next, and hopefully by then decisions will have been made well before that.
Yeah, it seems that it's not so much necessarily, what happens in that first round. It seems, from what I've seen in the detail, it's with what the subject is. They're saying ultimately these are practical vocational courses. So if they then want to do a very academic degree, there simply isn't going to be a fit. So you're right, it's watch this space. I'm just really conscious of it as a careers advisor. And very
absolutely. The last thing we want to do is put our students on the wrong courses, which doesn't lead to their aspirations, etc. And the providers I've been speaking to are very aware of that, and you'll find that for this year recruitment numbers are quite low compared to what the expectations are, and that's because providers have been very careful about who they enrol onto the course, because they don't want to set students up to fail or promise things that perhaps the students won't necessarily achieve when completing the course.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so if we hear from Julia then, who's from New College, Swindon, and then we'll hear from Ben Knox from Weston, and then we can have an open question and chat session, which would be good. But do start typing things into chat, because I'll pick up on those as well. Okay, so Julia, are you happy for me to hand across to you?
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Okay, I'll leave it. Are you okay with you just share whatever you want to
Yes,
share?
that's okay. Yep, that's lovely.
No problem.
Very interesting comments about the Russell Group, and obviously Oxford and Cambridge, exactly the same thing. There's no confirmation that they would accept a student who's completed a T-level qualification. However, they do make that fantastic opportunity to progress on to degree apprenticeship programs. We're lucky we have an Institute of Technology just launching in Swindon from September onwards, and the opportunity for students to go from a T-level, that practical vocational skill course, onto a degree apprenticeship, one of those vocational areas, is very appropriate. But if you have a student who wants to become, a doctor, then, the A-level program and those Russell groups, etc., are going to be the right way to go, I think. But anyway, I'll get off my high horse and I'll start showing my presentation.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Julia.
the sound was on there, so let me just try that again. No, that's not working either. Let me just try and do that one again.
Can see it, but you're saying the sound associated with it.
It's just not wanting to do it at the moment.
Any luck?
Let me just try that again.
Okay.
Right, hopefully we can go to start presenting from here. So can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, we can see
Lovely.
it.
Sorry about those technical hitches. So I'm Julia Hoskins, Employability and Community Learning Manager plus Work Experience at New College in Swindon. We're a newly merged college involving New College and Swindon College. So lots of opportunities. I just quickly want to share with you, hopefully you'll be able to hear this, it's my favourite video for a really short, sharp introduction to T-level. So fingers crossed you'll be able to hear this.
Yeah.
Right. So very quick. But it's, I think I was having a conversation with one of our students on the New College Executive last week, and she was saying, I'll never read a leaflet. So if you want me to know something, send me a video. And I think it's very much the TikTok generation that responds much better to anything video related now. So just a brief confirmation of the T level, which is obviously Rosemary covered in her presentation. So there are 2-year qualifications, importantly designed in partnership with the businesses and employers. Ideal for those who have finished GCSEs or a level 2 qualification, but ideal level 2 in the subject. So if they've completed level 2 in health and social care, they could move on to the T level in health and social care at level 3. The progression routes would probably be an apprenticeship, although the student could also go on to higher education, because as I say, the T level distinction star is worth the same as 3 A levels at A star, or obviously to get straight into employment, because obviously this comes with the massive benefit of having the work experience industry placement built in. So with this particular qualification, 80% of the time is spent in college, 20% on a minimum of 45-day placement, although obviously much longer studying in education and childcare. The work placement, again, is obviously something to stress to the student who is thinking of going on to a T level, because it isn't the right thing for some students who wouldn't perhaps you would think might not have the confidence to go into the workplace. The good thing is that with practically every other provider I've spoken to, the T level is planned for sort of perhaps an introduction in the end of year 1 and then going into year 2. So the student has the benefit of that theory and learning in the beginning of the year. We're trying to involve employers wherever possible in actually the initial recruitment into the course. So from the very beginning, the students actually get to meet the employers within that industry. And so start to build that confidence. But if you have a student who may be thinking of going on to an apprenticeship, but again lacks those skills or confidence to go straight into an apprenticeship, are ready for a level 3 course, then a T level may be that sort of stop gap before they go on to a higher apprenticeship. So what's studied on the T level? Again, Rosemary covered some of this, but the core concepts of what is covered no matter what the specialism may be. So there's core theory, the concepts relating to that specific sector, and core skills for an industry area. So this focuses very much on essential knowledge, understanding, but also within here is built the employability skills for that particular area. So we need to ensure these individuals are work ready for when they go out on the industry placement. So that is actually built into the course. The conversations we've been having with curriculum is that with the courses starting, the T-level course starting, so for example, Monday morning would start with a heads up meeting with all the students, talking about the work that will be covered that week, if there's going to be any project work, what involvement employers would have, very similar to what you may have in the workplace at the beginning of the week. So it's very much about trying to make employable individuals as well as those who are ready to study a level 3 qualification. The occupational specialism is specific to a particular career. I'll go through the health and the health T level specifically, so you can see some of the specialisms within that. But within each T level, there are a variety of specialisms depending on the T level. If we look, say, at education and childcare, it would be working with young people, but it also, if you compare, say, the BTEC in the early years educator BTEC, that would normally go from age 0 to 12, whereas the occupational specialism goes from 0 to 19, because it can also involve working with students in a further education college as well. So there's also additional English and maths that are going to be built into the T-level. At the moment, with a lot of young people, if they've already achieved that grade 4 minimum in English and maths, when they get to college, that may not be developed any further. However, with the T-level, that development of maths, English and digital skills specifically for that career would continue. This is really important for any careers, for example, in engineering, within sciences. So all those skills are further developed. The English and maths doesn't stop when they leave their year 11 student placement. And depending on the T-level, this is actually assessed by usually by a written exam, and there can be additional projects in here as well. So quickly, what is an industry placement? So every T-level requires an industry placement. This is an essential and compulsory part. The student has to pass the industry placement, so they have to complete their hours to a satisfactory standard with the employer to be able to complete their T-level. So it's focused on practical and technical skills, a minimum of 45 working days or 350 hours ideally, but with the childcare T-level it's 750 hours, which is very similar to the current early years educator. And depending on the employer, placements will be offered either in a block. We have our employers in science sectors who are saying they want the students on a 9-week block. They don't think anything else would actually work for them as an employer, and we have to be completely led by the employer for these placements. So other employers are saying, blocks of say 3 or 4 weeks at a time, because in theory it'd be about 9 weeks in total. With the childcare placements, they're happy to go with what has always been done historically, so 1 or 2 days a week. And there is also the opportunity for a combination of both. So perhaps towards the end of year 1 on the course, they might do, say, a 2-week block placement with the employer and then join them for the other 7 weeks in the autumn term. So just to break this down into a specific T-level. So with the health T-level, which is starting for the first time in September, there are various sector specialisms. Now, because we are looking at what is available locally and what the needs of employers are, our college has decided to go down the occupational specialisms of supporting the midwifery team, supporting adult nursing team, and supporting the mental health team. There are also another 2 specialisms available, which is therapy, working in therapy, and also working in the theatre team. But as I say, these are the ones that have been chosen by our curriculum area. Again, the IAG that we provide as a college is very important when we're speaking to the students about why they want to work in any of these particular specialisms. Talking to our local hospital and saying about the supporting the midwifery team, they said the question that is very important for us to ask the student is, why do they want to be a midwife? And if they say it's, because I love babies, they're saying, well, this is not the right job for you, because mainly it's working with the mum and not with the baby. You may decide to go into paediatric nursing instead. But, if you want to be a midwife, it's not all about babies, which I thought was very interesting. And we, at the moment, are continuing to offer our current BTEC in health and social care alongside the health T-level. And the reason for this is that it gives a career focus on social work. We have a great shortage of social workers in the local area. And because the BTEC qualification still offers the opportunity to progress into social work, we are going to be running that alongside the T-level. So what can you encourage your students to do? Obviously, as always, study hard, especially to get their grades in English and maths, because they will need at least a grade 4. And as Rosemary said, some providers are asking for higher grades. Think about the career path they're interested in. What do they want to do at the end of it? And that will help you and them decide which is going to be the best route for them. Look at obviously applying for their chosen T-level now, or requesting more information. Think about the industry placements that they would like to do. Research local companies. Where would they like to work? And see if there's any work experience advertised on their website. And even now, to start look at writing a CV, so they can just add their grades when they get them. They can use predicted for now, because if they're applying for an industry placement, I would say all employers that we're working with are asking for a CV. So, if they can start thinking about that now, that would be great. And just any questions, or again, if you'd like to leave those until the end of the session. That's me
Thank you
finished.
so much, Julia. That's brilliant. Thank you. Well, what we'll do, if that's okay with everybody, is that we'll hear from Ben at Weston College, and then we'll pick up any questions. But do start typing them into chat. I see there's some questions coming through about who organises work experience. And Rosemary said it's the responsibility of the providers to sort that one out. And she's also added some information about finance and funding. So hi, Ben. Thank you so much for coming along.
No worries, Sue. I'll just share my screen if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that.
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay. Yep, is that on full screen now?
Yep, that is.
Great. Okay. So yeah, thanks for the invite, Sue. Just really to give everyone, I suppose, a bit of an insight into our journey as a college with T-levels, and then also to, I suppose, give some snippets of advice that we found useful as we've approached IAG with T-levels with local schools and our learners as well, and obviously to answer any questions. So the journey so far, other colleagues have touched on that T-levels are now in delivery. They have been for a few months now, but obviously there's quite a bit of planning that goes into launching a new qualification. So this is an overview of our T-level provision map. So this year we've decided to launch just with digital. You'll see various different, we've heard from Swindon about their provision, and you'll go look across the west of England and you'll see lots of different colleges going in very different ways. But I think most will probably go for this approach with very incremental increase. So we've piloted digital this year, again with just one occupation. So with the digital design, in September we will increase the number of T-levels we have, but also expand the number of pathways or occupational specialisms within digital to include also business support and support services as well. So by the end, or by September 2022, we will have the option of 7 different T-levels, but within those 7 different T-levels, 15 occupational specialisms. And colleagues have already mentioned today, our big tip really when it comes to careers advice and making sure that learners make informed decisions is really to explore the content of those occupational specialisms, because that really is the crux of a T-level and its main intent. So the fundamentals, Rosemary took you through really most of these. So T-levels are the equivalent to 3 A-levels. We've approached it in a slightly different way. We probably would say that they are they're equivalent to 3.5 A-levels, just because we do feel that there is quite a lot of rigour in the academic aspect of a T-level. We've touched on already that they include a 45-day industry placement and that 80-20 split, the reverse of an apprenticeship. T-levels are ultimately a study program similar to that of the 16 to 19. So all of those 4 elements must be passed for someone to achieve the T-level qualification. But the substantial component is the technical qualification, which in a lot of literature you'll see is as TQ. So there are various different elements that meet the criteria for that TQ, and just take you through some of those. And that is the core component, which will be on a learner certificate graded as A* to E. And that is made up or assessed through 2 assessment categories. One that looks at the knowledge, understanding and skills that are required for that occupational specialism. And then also an employer set project. And that is a real, I suppose, like a project brief, really, where they will, again, work out and test those learners on the knowledge, skills and behaviours required to be an effective participant within that industry specialism. Those are the core component criteria. There's also then the occupational specialism that makes up the technical qualification, which is graded as a pass, merit or distinction. And this specialist project is designed, to give them, I suppose, more of an in-depth, realistic experience of what maybe work within that specialism industry will be. So, for example, with our digital T-level, we focus on an integration project where we take a real-life business problem working with our industry partners. They're given 2 sets of existing code and a user requirement, and then they have to work that project out. And very much, a bit of independent study, collaborative working as well. We will then send, as a provider, the grades, either A* to E, and then the pass, merit, distinction for the occupational specialism, send them to the awarding organisation. They will then come up with the grade for their technical qualification. Then they also will have to obviously pass the industry placement. Colleagues have already touched on the level 2 English and maths that must be completed for them to achieve the T-level certificate that will be issued by the provider at the end of their study program. And the final grading, which links back into the UCAS points that Rosemary alluded to, is going to be that of pass, merit, distinction and distinction star. So Rosemary touched on the transition program. I thought it'd just be really useful to kind of go into that in a bit more detail, because I think, as she touched on, it is actually down to the providers to implement their transition program, whereas the T-level is set by the awarding organisation. So providers such as colleges are very much working within a framework, whereas when it comes to the transition program, you as careers advisors will probably see lots of different models that colleges are putting in place. And we've definitely experienced that from working with colleges across the country on developing T-levels through various different meetings and working groups. So T-level transition program is a level 2 program. It's for those learners who are able, I suppose, to demonstrate that they can progress onto a T-level, but maybe are just quite not there. And that could be for a range of issues. Could be prior attainment, pastoral issues, or personal development. And we'll touch on kind of those latter 2 there, because that's become a key fundamental component of our transition program. I think transition programs are going to be really key with CAGs, because we're not going to hide away from the fact that we probably will see learners who maybe have achieved level 3 entry qualifications who maybe historically would have come in at level 2. So it's going to be really up for colleges, I think, and T-level providers to make sure that initial IAG and a needs assessment make sure that learners actually start at the right entry point. We will see transition programs delivered in college mainly, which obviously is different to the T-level program, but there will be a work experience element as well. So I suppose our top tip from an IAG perspective is to really look at a T-level transition program and its intent you will very much see a mixed economy, as I alluded to. Some colleges across the country have introduced just a generic T-level transition program where they are not occupational or career specialists or specialisms. So they've just got a generic T-level transition program, which will all learners who want to go onto a T-level, regardless of that pathway, will do this T-level transition program and then funnel off into the various specialisms or industry pathways. We have gone through, I suppose, as a college, decided to do a bit of a mixed economy with ours. So we have some of our T-level transition programs. We've gone for occupational specialists across the board for our T-level transition. We've only got digital obviously up and running at the moment. But learners who complete our T-level transition program will be able to go on to either a T-level or a BTEC in some pathways, or, for example, in early years, they will only be able to use a T-level transition program to go on to the T-level. So it's really, I suppose, a top tip would be to really look at actually the next steps of the T-level transition program, because that will be really key in kind of advising young people about what's best for them in terms of achieving their career goals. We will still keep some level 2 programs where we feel that the next step or the logical progression from those programs is onto a BTEC level 3 or onto an apprenticeship program. So our T-level transition program really is about answering those three questions. What knowledge, skills and behaviours does a T-level learner need? What does a level 2 learner lack to progress onto a level 3 qualification? And how do we instill the confidence for them to be able to enter the world of work? So it's very much going to be about that diagnostic period at the beginning is crucial to the T-level transition program, and making sure that we as providers identify the needs and maybe those gaps in knowledge and skills for those learners so they can progress, ideally onto a T-level program. And therefore the approach that we've put in place for our T-level transition program is that circle diagram below. So it's got 8 core components to our T-level transition program, and the technical qualification, which you're allowed to pick any level 2 from 16 to 19 qualification to put into your T-level transition. We've actually gone for a certificate instead of, for example, a level 2 diploma, because actually what we feel is important at the transition program is that wider skill development for them to either progress onto higher level learning in some pathways if they choose to go onto the T-level or BTEC, or more importantly, those work ready skills, such as, ethic, and more of those transferable skills, as well as making sure that we put in the right pastoral care for learners so they are able, I suppose, to have the emotional resilience to be able to enter the world of work, at quite a young age. The entry requirements for ours, which I think are pretty much standard across most providers, are GCSEs grades 9 to 2, with at least 2 grade 4s. So that's just something to bear in mind. But, they will differ from provider to provider, but across the board, that's mainly what we're seeing. So I thought it'd just be useful for you to just get some lessons learned from us as a provider about what we found challenging putting together a T-level provision and getting it off the ground. The relationship that we form with our exam board has been critical. As I said, the T-level transition program is down to the providers to set the components, but T-levels are developed by exam boards. So it's really key for providers to get to understand what Pearson or City and Guilds have set out for each of those core components in the core assessment, the employer set project, etc. So this will give you a bit of an insight into maybe some of the content and curriculum content that we would then have to support those learners to achieve. T-levels are a 2-year program, and we initially set out with the goal of 2 separate years, and maybe the placement will take place in a certain time period, maybe in the 2nd year. We've learned from putting this together that that's not the case, and we very much now view T-levels as a 23-month program. that goes through the whole 2 years and is very fluid in terms of going through those stages. And therefore we've had to respond accordingly through cross-college teams. And I think we've also kind of viewed T-levels as maybe the start of the end of the academic year. We think that T-levels, with placements going across the summer, we've had to adapt our support for learners in terms of making sure that they've got access to welfare and all those other cross-college support services throughout the academic year, and more importantly, that summer break. The impact on the wider provision, colleagues have already talked about how T-levels are very occupational focused. So therefore, we need to make sure that we are still very inclusive about careers, and making sure that learners can achieve a variety of career pathways. So that's why, as mentioned up at Swindon, why there are still some BTEC offers for certain pathways. And I think you've already alluded to the fact of COVID-19 and the impact on a learner's starting point is going to be really crucial. Are we going to see learners on T-levels who maybe should be on a transition programme? So again, that initial diagnostic period for providers is going to be crucial, as well as also, I suppose, from a schools and a secondary perspective, is making sure that the learners who are applying maybe have that resilience and that skill set to be able to go straight into a T-level and the requirements that it will have on them as individuals. So the role of IAG, this just gives you an update on kind of the national picture. So at the moment, there are 44 providers across the UK delivering T-levels. Further 60 come into play from September, and then another 80. So in September 2022, we just have shy of 200 T-level providers. In terms of who can deliver T-levels, anyone can deliver the 2020 and 2021 routes from 2023, but only good and outstanding providers will be able to deliver the new pathways that come into play from 22 and 23. But from 2024, all routes for any provider will be able to deliver T-levels irrespective of their Ofsted grade. Obviously, we, as earlier mentioned by Rosemary, we're waiting kind of the outcome of the post-16 level 3 consultation. You read various different reports about the end of BTECs. We very much don't believe that's the right way. We think there is very much a place for BTECs, because we have to have an inclusive level 3 offer, but we'll really wait the outcome of that. So our approach to IAG, and I suppose some of the findings we've found, is that we've needed to upskill all our staff involved in the delivery. All key internal stakeholders have been asked to complete relative or relevant CPD, and the ETF has been a great source of that for us. So our careers teams, school liaison teams, all curriculum teams involved in T-level design and delivery have all undergone various training programs through the ETF, and I would, wholeheartedly encourage you to access those links because we found them really useful. We have a motto at the college about influencing the influencer and kind of that parental support network. We've found that parental awareness of T-levels is poor. We don't feel that they know too much about them. But also they also want to know much more about them because they're new, they're untested. So we've made sure that in terms of IAG and support with our marketing has been very much targeted at them. We did T-level takeovers on socials, reached over 12,000. We've done a series of webinars. We have a What Next Careers showcase that we do at the beginning of the year. We've also put on school staff CPD virtually about working with school careers advisors and senior leaders within secondary schools to kind of support them to better understand T-levels. But, all providers, I'm sure, are doing very similar things. I think at the same time, raising awareness and identifying the right learner is critical. So obviously within a pandemic, our schools liaison team have put together various digital resources to work with schools. We recruit to careers, not courses, and as a result, we changed our interview process, which I think is actually better supported the identification for T-levels. We interview for subject area now. We don't, regardless of whether a learner applies for a specific program, we will interview them for all provision, work-based learning, T-levels and classroom-based across that subject area, which enables us to, I think, make sure that we know that we put the right learner on the right course. And we've also invested in MZ Career Coach that sits on our college website, which is an LMI tool with career questionnaires and mapping software that really kind of helps young people, I think, identify career pathways, occupations, but also their skills as well. So lessons learned, I think, is, you know, the flexibilities of a T-level. So as much as they are very occupational specific, where going back to my first slide, where we're introducing T-level, you know, as our T-level offer expands and we bring in new occupational specialisms, where there is more than one on a T-level, we will introduce a 1-year common core, and that will allow us working with that young person to identify that key specialism that would be more beneficial for them to pursue as they move into that kind of final 11 months of their T-level. We felt that as a college, and, you know, I think nationally there needs to be much more clarity around the difference between BTEC and T-levels, and making sure that, you know, we have those clear pathways are critical. And I think Rosemary alluded to them earlier. Those career ladders or progression maps are really a really valuable resource to look at. I thought you might just want to be kind of insight into what our T-level learners are telling us and why they pick T-levels. The top 3 reasons so far are industry placement, the fact they're endorsed by employers, and also the wider links with employers and generating those employability skills. These are the key questions that we get from school leavers, parents, and I think most of these have been answered through the various different presentations already this afternoon. We've talked about the grading, the difference between T-levels, apprenticeships, UCAS points are there. You know, why choose a T-level has been, you know, is pretty clear, I think, from the national campaign and promotional resources. And English and maths, you don't need it necessarily to start the technical qualification. However, as we touched on earlier, it is a study program, so you must have a GCSE grade 4 in English or maths or level 2 to achieve the T-level program of study. So finally, career aspiration, key point, really important to identify and match career aspiration of that young person into the T-level program. The learning style, look at the awarding organisations, so whether it's Pearson, City or Guild, look at maybe the assessments that they've got in place for the T-levels. Professional skills, and this is why, you know, we've talked about our T-level transition offer being more about that wider skill development and making sure that learners are ready for exposure to employers and having that emotional resilience to be able to successfully enter the world of work. The transition program and understanding, is it aimed at a specific T-level pathway? Is it a generic transition program? And so on. And employer endorsements. We've taken a different approach for different T-levels. So some of the ones that we've got coming up into our offer in September, we've gone and worked with quite well-known big employers. But at the same time, for our first one, for digital, we worked with a local IT tech company in Taunton called Cardstream, which most young people in North Somerset have not heard of. However, you know, we felt that that was the best employer to give the best experience on the T-level. So just to make sure you probably get the young person to do some research into that employer as well, whoever's linked and endorsed that specific T-level pathway. But that's it from me, Sue. So I'll leave it there and then come back for any questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben and Rosemary, and also Julie as well. That's loads of information for us, which is really, really useful when we're going to be advising students. So it's an opportunity now for anybody to ask a question or to put something in chat. A few things about funding in chat. And I was asking what's an ETF because I wasn't sure. It's an Education Training Foundation. Is it a course or money? Presumably it's money. Is it? I don't know. I think it must be an FE thing. Anyway, so if anyone's got a question, the best way to go on, Rosemary.
Yeah. Education and Training Foundation is the company I work for. They're the ones that are being fully funded by DFE to provide all training.
Oh, right. Right. Okay. Thank you for that. I did check back to the website, and it didn't refer to that. So thank you for clarifying that. That's brilliant. Hi, Mike. You just joined us. We're just running about 5 minutes late, so hopefully that's all right. We're just going to have a quick question and answer session about T-levels. So if you want to ask a question, you can put your hand up, which is in the top bar, the little hand, and I'll ask you to put your mic on, or you can type something in the chat pane. All gone quiet. Any questions for anybody? There's lots of really good information there. We are recording this session, so I think that'd be useful for us to share with our broader range of people. But if you could send any presentations that you haven't sent in, I think I've got some, and then we'll post those up on Career Pilot as well for other advisors to access and for people here today. So Julia's got a hand up. Do you want to put your mic on, Julia, and ask a question?
Hi, yeah, this is probably for Julia at New College Swindon. So the transition programme, so I've been onto the website for New College Swindon, and it only refers to the transition programme on the T-levels page. Is this, are they bespoke to the individual student's needs? And I'm presuming they're offered at level 2. How would a student know whether that might be more suitable for them? For example, if they don't necessarily come and see a careers advisor, because quite often students go onto the college websites and have a look at the information, but they're not necessarily aware of what's available and what's appropriate to them.
Hi, Julia. Thank you very much. Great question. Thank you. Obviously, Weston are a little bit ahead of us on, firstly, the launch of their T-levels. They were one of the first providers, and we're sort of like in the second wave. But the transition programme that we're planning is an opportunity for individuals to get core employability skills, but the content will be dependent upon the area in which they're looking to go into. Initially, my understanding is that we're not going to sort of pin anyone down to sort of going into health and social care or into IT or into a specific subject, but we'll be offering a sort of a carousel type approach where they can go into different subject sector areas, and we would then organise some of the work experience around that. Obviously, work experience, just to reassure everyone, has risen in recognition across many colleges now, rather than being a sort of sometimes a bit of an afterthought. It's now been much more heavily funded because of the Capacity and Delivery Fund and obviously the upcoming T-levels. So our role within the college is to support the students actually finding the placements, and that will be true of the T-level transition programs as well. So my understanding that for Swindon, we will be offering a transition program which will develop specific knowledge and skills around going into employment, but then the individuals will be able to filter in to level 2 courses depending on their area of interest. What we have found through the conversations we've had is that quite often at level 2, the student isn't quite sure what they want to do. often coming to college because they're told they have to continue their education. So we're from what we're understanding, the sort of carousel approach of being able to experience some of the different learning in the different occupational areas is initially the best way to do it. The problem with our website has been that we were waiting for announcement of transition programme funding to be able to develop what we're doing. But my understanding now that that's all in place, and I will obviously have a bit of a chat with our marketing department to make sure they can put additional information on there. But our interviewing team with student services are obviously aware of the opportunities. So I think it's when obviously the students actually put their application in that further IAG is obviously being provided in the house by our team. Does that sort of answer that question, or have I just gone around the houses?
No, that's really useful, Julia. So the best thing is if students are potentially then interested in a T-level is to go for that interview and then discuss that at that point in time with the IAG advisors.
Yes, yeah, because it will depend obviously on their grades for their English and maths as to, you know, what the offer is going to be. I mean, at the moment, obviously, BTECs are still available. The intention obviously is to do away with them eventually, but we're probably talking, 5-6 years down the line at the moment. So at the moment, yes, make the most of having an application in, even if they're applying for apprenticeship, we always say, apply for a main course as well, just in case the apprenticeship doesn't come off. And but the IAG will be carried